Goedemiddag. We danken u voor uw komst namens de heer en mevrouw Poch. Als eerste wil ik graag een statement maken over de gang van zaken tot nu toe. De heer Poch is op verzoek van de advocaten via het buitenland, via Sao Paulo, Brazilië, naar Nederland gevlogen. Dat is onze keuze geweest om ervoor te zorgen dat hij vooralsnog anoniem naar Nederland zou kunnen vliegen. Als hij van Buenos Aires was vertrokken, dan had de pers dat geweten, want in de Nederlandse pers stond ook dat hij vrijdag zou aankomen. Dus dan was er 1 en 1 en 2. Dan hadden ze donderdag op het vliegveld staan wachten op hem. Dus vanwege die keuze is hij via Sao Paulo naar Nederland gekomen. Hij heeft die vlucht gevlogen met een Argentijns paspoort. Hij is ook op het Argentijns paspoort Nederland binnengekomen. Hij is, anders dan in de pers is verschenen, niet gevlucht en niet haastig Argentinië verlaten. Hij heeft eerst de tijd genomen om zijn familie te bezoeken, zijn moeder bezocht. Vervolgens heeft hij van de rechters die hem vrijspraak hebben gegeven een verklaring meegekregen waarin staat dat het hem vrij staat om te reizen en te gaan en te staan waar hij wil. Met die vrijgeleide heeft hij dus ook rustig een keuze kunnen maken om te vertrekken op zijn tijd. En als laatste opmerking wil ik graag laten weten dat meneer Poch speciaal nu een persconferentie geeft om jullie te woord te staan. Het is heel erg moe, hij heeft veel emoties doorstaan. Dus het verzoek is aan jullie om hem daarna vooralsnog met rust te laten en hem de tijd te geven te wennen weer aan Nederland, aan de familie en de omgeving. Voor individuele verzoeken die kunnen jullie aan ons kantoor richten en dan zullen we dan later nog op terugkomen. Oké.
Heel goed. Dankjewel, Karin.
Zou u misschien kunnen wisselen voor de microfoon?
Voor de microfoon. Anders vind ik dat niet zo.
Rikketje zakken, ja.
Nou, de foto's aan haar, mijn mooie dochter. Nou, dames en heren, ladies and gentlemen, goedemorgen, goedemiddag. First I'm going to read a very short statement that I just finished writing on the airplane. And then Mr. Knoops and myself will try to answer all of your questions. I want to welcome you all, like Gary did, and thank you for your interest in my case. We are not used to so much media attention. As you all know, I'm just a normal person, a pilot by profession, and not a celebrity. And as you can see, I prefer to talk today to you in English. I apologize for that, but after 8 years of forced living in Argentina, my Dutch has not improved, on the contrary, and also it gets worse after a very long flight. Maybe with a little practice, the next interviews, if I have to get them, we can do it in het Nederlands. Another reason is that I want to avoid any misunderstanding. Right, because this all started with a misunderstanding. And if we want to get back to when this started, it all started for me 8 years ago, when I had to, with what was going to be a very joyful moment and day, perform my last flight before my pension for Transavia. I left my home with my wife, Grete, and my son Andres as my co-pilot. As you know, Transavia has the custom of letting the captains choose their crew, but also to allowing the family to come along. Nobody could imagine that it would end in a nightmare situation starting at Valencia. I left my home then thinking that I would be back that night. Our friends and family were preparing for a celebration and making decorations on the outside of my house. My wife had prepared a very nice cake, which I was shown a picture of, which remained in the freezer for a long time.
No.
Yes. No. Still. No, that would be... but what I want to point out is, in these 8 years and 2 months and 7 days, I was not able to return home. And today, with a big emotion, with a lot of feeling, I am home, finally. I'm back in the Netherlands, and I'm very happy to be here. And I want to share my happiness and joy with you. 22 years at Transavia. And I was always very proud of being an Argentine pilot who was able to bring his family over, because I considered that this was a first world country where we would have a better future. That was the only reason. I was already a pilot with Aerolíneas Argentinas, our flag carrier, and most of my colleagues stayed in Argentina and completed their careers there. So I'm back home today after those 8 years and very emotional about it, and I couldn't have a better welcome. It feels great to be back, although at this time of the year we have some rain and some clouds and some colds in the Netherlands, while at home in Argentina it was spring. I want to talk about, very briefly, about what happened last week. On Wednesday, the 29th of November, as you all know, the trial of the mega cause ESMA, which would be actually the ESMA 3, but they unified several causes, ended after more than 5 years. 5 years and 1 day, to be exact. And most importantly, it came with my long-awaited acquittal. I had already deserved it, so from the beginning, from day one, so I had very few doubts that I would be acquitted. But still, you must understand that these trials have a political element in it. And they also are affected by other mysterious forces, which I even don't know. It's also very important for me to point out that of the 6 persons, defendants, acquitted, I was the only one acquitted unanimously by all 3 judges. The only one that was acquitted by all 3 judges. It was unanimous. The tribunal agreed that I was innocent. You might want to ask me later, is the prosecution going to appeal? Yes, and the press has already asked the prosecutor Cordova if he's going to appeal, and they will do that always, no matter what they get. So, of course, they will do that in my case. That's my impression, of course, my opinion. Why was the verdict unanimous? Why did all 3 judges agree on my innocence? In the first place, because they realized already from the beginning that I had no place in that trial. It was one big mistake, which unfortunately started in the Netherlands. And I also want to add that it was not due to lack of evidence, like some people want us and you to believe. How can we know what the judges based their decision on? We have to wait. We have to wait until 5 March, it was announced. Then they will give the fundamentals of the verdict. Why do I say for myself then it was not due to lack of evidence? Because we were able to present evidence of my innocence. And that's a big difference. As most of you have heard already, we have the problem in Argentina of a very, let's say, unsure justice system. So you have to prove your innocence, and until that moment, you're guilty. It's the other way around there. That's how it works in practice. My acquittal was due to the overwhelming exculpatory evidence that we presented. And that was thanks to the actions and the excellent performance of my defense lawyer, Gerardo Ibáñez, in Argentina. We had a very good defense team, but what I like about Mr. Ibáñez is that he really goes very deep into each case and knows every detail of what happened. While we have seen other lawyers in Argentina, especially the official defense lawyers, that have so many cases that they cannot go deep into each one of the details, and really so you get surprised when you see that and realize, and that has happened with several of the people who have been in prison in Argentina, that the defense was very poor. They do not know the case. For me, it was invaluable also all the help from Mr. Gert-Jan Knoops, Dr. Knoops, and his wife helped us on the side of the Netherlands. Of course, during the trial in Argentina, they were limited in only helping us what they could send us from here. Now they played an important role in getting me back. Well, this I repeat a little bit. I want to take the last part of my little statement to thank everybody. It's just too long a list of names to mention every person who has helped us. From my colleagues and friends in the Netherlands to my classmates of the Navy and friends in Argentina. It's just everybody has been searching from the beginning for the truth and justice. I thanked already in my final words the creators of the Foundation Justice for Julio Poch. I wanted it to be called Freedom for Julio Poch, but we settled. That was important because it allowed us to have a word in the social media. In the last part, it was on Facebook as well, and that connected us to a lot of people, and we were able to tell the truth of our story. And a lot of persons reacted to that very well. I want to mention very briefly the help and support of the Dutch Pilot Association, VNV, which they also gave me with some doubts in the beginning, in the sense that they were afraid it might be political, but when they realized what was happening, they gave me their full support. And of course, to end it, all the support and help that I have from the team here, because I'm a citizen of the Netherlands and very proud to be one. They also helped me with the Dutch consulate and embassy in Argentina. They were very helpful to me in these 8 long years. That ends a little bit what I wanted to tell you. I think I have covered what I believe is important, but please feel free to ask some questions, and if I cannot answer them, I will let Gert-Jan take the word. Yes? Okay.
Mr. Poch, was there ever any danger that they would prevent you from leaving the country and go to the Netherlands?
No. Well, in Argentina, you always have doubts about anything they say. So we wanted to make sure, especially the I think the authorities in the Netherlands wanted to be sure. We saw that. I had an interview last week after the verdict with the ambassador, the Dutch ambassador, Mr. Martin de la Beel. And he said, we have to be very careful. We have to be sure before we give you a passport that everything is all right and that you can leave the country. And for that reason, we had a special document made and signed by the judges, which not only allows me to perform the request of a passport, but also it says to leave the country.
And what will you do if there will be an appeal? You said they are going to appeal.
Yes.
Of course, we don't know exactly on what grounds yet. Will you be obliged to go back?
I don't know. I don't know what happens in those cases. So that's the part of the law that we have to study if the moment comes. I have my lawyer in Argentina, Ibanez, remains on the case, and his daughter, I must mention Carmen Ibanez. She was also working, they were working together. And they will be notifying me of everything that happens. As far as we know, if they appeal, nobody has to come back. My lawyer represents me there.
Is the point that you already received an apology from the Dutch public prosecutor?
I haven't heard of any apology from any Dutch authority, and I don't know if I will get one. I would like that very much.
Maybe it's a difficult question for you at this very moment, but we were wondering, what did you do in those 8 years?
No, it's a good question. My excuses. Now, other people have asked me that over the time, and it's what I would also ask people who have been put away for a long time. You take it day by day. There's always something happening. We had different instances of situations. If you remember, I was first imprisoned in Spain. That was a very difficult time, in the sense, in prison conditions. But we had high hopes that I would be able to return very quickly, maybe in a few hours, back to the Netherlands, because it was one big mistake. So already from the beginning, after passing my worst night ever in a police cell of the airport of Valencia, the next day they showed me a woman judge in Valencia, and I thought I would be going home. But there was one huge mistake. I had never been close to the ESMA, and I had never been accused of anything, and much less in Argentina. Can you imagine? I had my Facebook page. I traveled every year to Argentina. I was in contact with everyone. So it was so unexpected. Then you have the period in which I had to stay in Spain, awaiting my extradition, which I had accepted voluntarily. And I want to just very quickly say why. Unfortunately, and that had possibly with knowledge of the Dutch and Argentine authorities, Spain had a very oiled system of extradition to Argentina, and I was the fourth ex-former military that had been detained in Spain over a few years. All of them had been extradited to Argentina after a 3-year trial. That's an extradition trial. Spain always won, or let's say the detainee always lost, and after 3 years in the prison, you were sent anyway. So that was the reason. When I heard that, and I checked it, then I had no reason. I contacted my lawyer in Argentina, and he said, come here, we can prove that you're innocent and you won't be indicted. There's still a little bit of justice left in Argentina. And, well, we believe that. I believe that. Again, then we take periods one at a time. You all know, some of you know that that first indictment was nullified. It was a crazy indictment for which, and don't forget this, I was arrested in Spain and extradited to Argentina based on that first indictment, which was read later in October of 2010 nullified by the appeals court. And then I was free again. But I had to stay in the country. I was vrij op borg, free on bail. That lasted 6 months. In the meantime, we had the declarations of The Hague in January of 2011. Those went very well. The judge, the Dutch judge, Glas, was satisfied that everything had been very clear and that it was all a mistake after hearing all the Dutch pilots, 12. He even congratulated my lawyer, Mr. Knoops, but also Ibanez were present with a translator, so we thought this would all end. All that had to be translated into Spanish, and then I would be scot-free. No. So Judge Torres, the instruction judge, made a new indictment for those 30 now victims instead of 615. Just took away 585 and said, okay, we leave 30 over, and then we can also accuse him again. And that's what happens in Argentina. The instruction judges and prosecutors, they do whatever they like. Then they throw the cases to the trial judges, and this is what happened here. The trial judges, they come to the case with a clear head. They haven't heard of the case, maybe they read about it in the paper, but the rest is new to them, and that's good. They have to hear the witnesses, the defense, the prosecution, and then they decide. But that took 5 years. And again, then you have the period in which you're awaiting the trial. And then you have the period when you're in the trial. What do you do every day? Lots of things to do. Prepare your defense, but also live your day of prison and do the best of it. I have learned, the most important thing that I learned of these 8 years in prison is to be patient. A lot of patience. And I hope I can show it to my family. We are all hectic and running around like crazy, and you become very impatient. But there, everything goes so slow that you have to be patient. Just one last thing, and it is that after you all live with information, you are all from the press, and we live in a world of communication. That's what I did as well as a pilot. I told my passengers where we were going, when we would arrive, but now, all of a sudden, you're a prisoner, and they don't tell you anything. You live, so they put you in a car, you don't know where you're going. You don't know when you're arriving, and you don't know what they're going to do with you. I had some situations which I thought, maybe I don't come back alive from this trip. So, again, late at night with 2 guards that were talking badly about us and going into the middle of nowhere. I said, what is this for example? That didn't happen. I don't want to be melodramatic, but the main difference is that you don't know what's going to happen next. And you try to put your life in order from that. Yes, sir, you wanted to ask me something?
This was a very different question. What's your opinion these days about the Videla regime and the way they treated their opponents in the 70s? What's your opinion?
Now, my opinion has never varied. I have the same opinion as always. But and that is, now we could stay talking about old regimes all morning or an afternoon. I'm not a political person. I was a former military pilot, Navy. We were not political. It did not interest me who the junta members were or what they were doing, yes, for the country, not against it. And I also had made a short statement in Buenos Aires, no problem, in Buenos Aires after my acquittal, stating what I really feel. I wrote it here again, I just jumped it, but that I think it's a tragedy what happened in the 70s in Argentina. But I didn't know that was going on. And most of us heard about that years later. You must realize that when I entered the Navy, there was another military general in power, Onganía, 1966. When I graduated from the Naval Academy, the president of Argentina was Lanusse, another general in power. In the meantime, there were civilian governments. And I'm not going to go running away because there's another general in power. We had our task to perform, and that was, as a combat pilot, our task was to defend the fleet. We had an aircraft carrier, we had destroyers, we even had submarines that, as you know, now we have a drama with one of our submarines of the Navy. But we are not a political people, and every time we touch that subject, well, you can talk for hours, but everybody has a different opinion. I think it's terrible what happened, and that so many people died or even disappeared in Argentina. It's terrible, and I think it will stay forever that so much blood was paid in those days. I hope that answers your question. Yes, sir.
You said it all started with the people didn't understand you at the dinner table in Bali. What was the...
I didn't say that.
Okay, but it started in the beginning of the...
You said that.
Okay, in the beginning of when you started talking, you said it all started with a misunderstanding.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I didn't say it was at a dinner table.
Okay. But what was the misunderstanding at the dinner table?
No, I don't want to go into that for the reason, again, that it would be... Everyone that was at that dinner table remembers it differently, but so many years have passed. Each one of the participants recalls a different topic of conversation or a different... And, well, it's impossible. If you have something, a conversation that's not recorded on audio or video, after 13 years, it doesn't deserve even the look of the judges. But I know what I said, because maybe it happens to you on certain subjects. You know what you talk about in a conversation. So I know exactly what I said, and I stick to that, and the rest are all inventions. And we were able to prove it during the trial that these people had lied, the kroongetuigen, and they had already performed several contradictions, and that they went back on their initial saying. So that I hope answers your question. Somebody who didn't ask me a question? I don't.
How do you think about your colleagues now?
Well, I think they were. I'm sorry for them. Probably for them.
Yeah?
I think maybe they did it initially for good reasons, but they didn't admit, they can't admit, apparently to save face, that they were mistaken. So I feel sorry for them, yes.
Would you be willing to meet with them if they would offer that to you?
I've had the offer. One of them has tried to contact me. I won't tell you who, but...
You told me.
All right, good. Then you know. But no, and I think it's not the moment. I think it's not the moment to meet with them. That's all. Okay. I don't hate them or anything, but it's not the moment.
Do you see yourself meet with them in the future?
Yes, that's always possible. Yes.
Do you blame anyone for taking away so many years of you? In the meantime, you are granted 6 times, as far as I'm well informed. Seven. I'm sorry, I missed one.
No problem. We have 6 girls and 1 boy, so grandchildren, 7 grandchildren. No, I think once again, when this starts, you blame the system, and you are very disappointed. Like what happened to me, I was very disappointed that something like this could happen in the Netherlands. That the Dutch government would let me down. That they would not give me the chance to defend myself. We're talking about an aangifte, pressing charges for something that I think I heard at a dinner conversation 2.5 years ago. Now, well, then let the other person at least get a chance to defend himself. So, and this combination, that's why I hope I can tell this story completely, because this combination of factors probably will not repeat itself. I hope not, and that's the reason. How can it happen? And it can only happen in these circumstances. They're very strange, the mix. Huh? And so I don't blame. I can't put blame on everybody. No, but I'm all right.
Yeah.
Maybe questions for Mr. Knopf, but
No.
Maybe just one final question.
yes, I'm doing fine, and as long as you have interest and you have questions, we are very.
Sorry, it's not a dangerous question. Don't be
No, there are no dangerous questions.
Did you often lose hope? How did you mentally
Good, I understand.
last 8 years?
No, luckily you don't know it's going to be 8 years. So you take it one day at a time, and looking forward, and you always have hope. Use that word; it's very good. First, you have faith in your own innocence. So you say, "Well, listen, we can prove this, and we can show, and we have enough documentation." And that's the difficult thing. We're talking about something that happened 40 years ago. And hopefully you can overturn the habit that they have in Argentina of saying, "Oh well, he was there, then he must have done it, he must have known about it," and it's that's not what you need in a court of law. But once again, you stay with hope. You always think it's about to end because you have an appeal, because now you have a trial. Don't forget that the trial was programmed to begin in 2012. In mid-year, it started November 2012, and it was also programmed, detailed in a document, that it would take 24 months. They had the number of witnesses, hours of courtroom, all planned. 24 months. You look forward for the next 24 months, I'll be free.
But how did you do that? Not losing hope. How did you do that?
Thanks to my family, my wife Grete, my daughters Mariana and Alejandra, my friends. And, in the Navy, everybody knew that I was innocent. In the prison, everybody knew that I was innocent, because we know who was there and who wasn't. So I felt very stupid in the beginning, because at least those who were with me, some of them, yes, they had what they say, participated because they were defending their country. They received an order, and I said, well, I was not even there, and then you feel really foolish. Oh, what did you tell these people these Dutch pilots? I mean, Julio, what are you doing here? And that also makes it very dangerous for everybody else. Now, if they can put Julio here, now what's with the rest of the officers in the Navy? We had 70,000 officers, and petty officers at that time in the Navy. 250 naval pilots. Do you know how many naval pilots were in this trial? 2. And they were both acquitted. Sisulges, a helicopter pilot, who also didn't do anything, and myself, a jet combat aircraft pilot. So that's what I want to tell you. You keep on living. I told you, the family, the friends, and we were continuously getting support. That gives you a big boost. They also treated me very well in the prisons in Argentina, I must say. Don't forget that the prison system is managed and run by the penitentiary system, and we had also, as fellow prisoners, officers of the penitentiary system service from those years. So now we are well treated, and you are among, they're not colleagues, they're from different institutions. Maybe some of you don't know, but most are police. That's the largest number. Police of the city of Buenos Aires and police, we're talking about police of 40 years ago, who were called first to fight against the problem in Argentina. Those days, there was a lot of tension, and we had a lot of people being kidnapped for ransom. So of course that was a police problem. The military were called much later. So, and then the largest number of military are from the army. The army is by far the largest military institution. And we are a very small group of Navy, petty officers, and officers. And there were some Navy men who were corporals in those days. So they didn't have a chance even to make a decision what they could do. And they were also convicted.
Oké, we moeten even de tijd in de gaten houden. Nog één vraag
Yes,
en dan...
we cannot keep...
Nog één vraag en dan zal Jan nog even een korte statement maken vanuit de defense.
Do you plan to undertake any legal actions now?
Aha. No, I knew that question might come, and we agreed that would be answered by Mr. Knoos, because we'll look into it.
Okay. What are you going to do the next few days?
Well, that's try to relax. I had promised my family Kerstmis, so that has become a reality. I want to get acquainted with my grandchildren, and well, that's why we ask you if I hope this helps. I had to say no, and my family as well, to a lot of your questions in Buenos Aires. Some of you traveled there, and I thank you for your patience, because we didn't want to talk about that in Argentina, because we wanted the peace and quiet. And that's the same thing that I like now, some peace and quiet with the family, and maybe I can answer some questions if you still find it interesting, I don't know, next year.
Okay, Jan?
I would like, on behalf of the Dutch defense team of Julio Poch, to give a brief statement. First of all, mag het in Nederlands?
Natuurlijk.
Oké.
Ja, hij is aan het leren. Hij is aan het Spaans leren.
Maar ik heb alleen maar woorden voor.
Ja, makkelijk. Anders.
Het is voor ons, het Nederlandse advocatenteam, dat de afgelopen jaren, bijna 8 jaar, zeer intensief aan deze zaak hebben gewerkt. Met een bijzondere samenwerking met Gerardo Ibanez en zijn dochter Carmen. En niet te vergeten Patricia, de zuster van meneer Poch, die ons ook geholpen heeft met het verkrijgen van documenten en vertalingen. Natuurlijk een bijzonder indrukwekkende ervaring en moment om hier vandaag te zitten naast een vrijgesproken verdachte die je eigenlijk in al die 8 jaren slechts kort voor de uitspraak hebt gezien. Daar is een reden voor. We hebben veel vragen gekregen waarom hebben wij meneer Poch niet eerder bezocht. Gelukkig hadden we een vaste belafspraak op maandagavond 8 uur, al 8 jaar lang. Wat natuurlijk een hele bijzondere band creëert, ook met een cliënt. Maar dat hield ook alles verband met de onmogelijkheid die we hadden om daar naartoe te gaan. En het is door onder andere de foundation vrienden van Julio Poch, Justice for Julio Poch, mogelijk geweest dat wij... En een anonieme donor, weldoener, mogelijk geweest om vorige week naar Argentinië af te reizen. Ik wilde kort even stilstaan bij 3 punten. Eerste plaats de investigation. Waarom is die uitspraak van deze rechters unaniem geweest? Die is mede unaniem geweest omdat er in Nederland door de Nederlandse staat slecht onderzoek is gedaan. Minister Grapperhaus heeft vorige week gezegd dat Nederland geen rol heeft gehad in deze zaak. De OM heeft dat ook beweerd. Maar aan de basis van zijn arrestatie ligt een Nederlands onderzoek dat slecht, onprofessioneel en onkundig is uitgevoerd. En wij hebben vanuit Nederland met ons verdedigingsteam in samenwerking met Gerardo Ibanez aangetoond dat hier ontlastend bewijsmateriaal lag. Dat hebben we in die afgelopen jaren vergaard, kunnen presenteren aan de rechters in Buenos Aires. En dat bewijs is ook geaccepteerd als ontlastend. Ik zal u besparen wat dat is misschien voor later. Dat zijn heel veel...
Hoe kunt u dat zeggen als de motivering niet maakt komt?
Omdat in Argentinië bij een vrijspraak het pleidooi van de advocaat gevolgd wordt. Bij een veroordeling wordt het requisitoor van het Openbaar Ministerie gevolgd. Het feit dat een unanieme vrijspraak is gekomen betekent dus dat de argumenten van de verdediging overtuigender waren dan dat van de prosecutor.
En een van de rechters gezegd heeft tegen hem, er is u onrecht aangedaan. En dat is heel bijzonder.
Ja, maar het onrecht is natuurlijk een breed begrip, zeg maar. Dat begrijp ik ook wel. Anders had hij hier niet gezegd in vrijspraak.
Nee.
Maar het gaat mij specifiek om hoe kunt u zeggen dat zeg maar, het slechtere werk wat Nederland heeft geleverd uiteindelijk...
Omdat het is aangedoken in het pleidooi van meneer Ibáñez, die zich daarop heeft gebaseerd. En dat pleidooi is gevolgd door de rechters. En dat zal ook op 5 maart blijven. Dat is het Argentijnse systeem dat bij een vrijspraak de argumenten van de verdediging, en dat is niet onlogisch, gevolgd worden en niet de argumenten van de prosecutor. In dit verband wil ik ook nog sprekend over die investigation, want dat zegt denk ik ook heel veel over de rol van de staat waar we later op terugkomen, wil ik ook van de gelegenheid gebruik maken om brigadier-generaal Steve Netto, die helaas afgelopen zomer is overleden, in herinnering te roepen. Een van de meest vooraanstaande luchtmachtpiloten die wij in Nederland hebben gehad, heeft zich belangeloos over deze zaak ontfermd, heeft maandenlang onderzoek gedaan naar de logboeken van meneer Poch. Naast dat het onderzoek gedaan is door experts in Argentinië en is toen tot de conclusie gekomen dat meneer Poch onschuldig was. Dat rapport is ook gepresenteerd dat rapport is op ons verzoek opgemaakt door brigade-generaal Netto. Dat is gepresenteerd door dokter Ibáñez aan de rechters. Dat is geaccepteerd als bewijsstuk. Zit in het dossier. En is een van de vele